Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 5 of Godcast, the Goodness Over Darkness podcast. I'm your host, Todd Armstrong, and today we are going to have a bit of a warning or a heads up for any younger listeners. This might not be an episode that you would want a younger child listening to, as sexual topics will be brought up. That's what the main subject matter is going to be, about sexual encounters and influence as I was growing up. And I guess we'll probably talk about the effects that it had on me. But before we get into all that, I want to welcome anyone who wants to share their story of the goodness overcoming the darkness. You could send me an email to the Great Chakra Awakening 777@gmail.com. And I can read the email off, or I could interview you and you could tell your own story. You can find me on Facebook at Todd Armstrong. My logo for the show is my main picture, so that's how you know it's me. And I think that is it for the pre-show stuff. So, for the first 4 episodes, I laid out pretty much things that were happening to me in my dark times. I try to give you a bit of a picture of how even my sports and entertainment was just distracting me from ever looking to God for anything, and how that shaped my relationship with my father, and where it's not on solid foundation, or as a solid foundation as it once was, because it was built upon a thing, and that thing I no longer have interest in. So that influenced me. And then the last episode was jail and how that influenced me, and all a few different experiences that I had in jail, and just, a brief run through of that section of my life. Alright, well, in this episode, I'm going to talk about how I was sexualized at a very young age, and that had a huge role to play on me for the rest of my life. Because once you're sexualized, it's hard to not be. So, I mean, not that I am now. I've overcome a lot, and I'll get into that later. But when you're shaped, when all your opinions are being shaped around the idea of sex, or with the idea of trying to get to sex, your world is very different. So, I don't want to say any names in this, but I will say that around, this is hard for me to say because I've only said this to one person ever. But, all things that happen in the darkness must come to the light, so I may as well say it. So around, I guess, 7, one of my male friends, who was also 7, started touching me inappropriately. So, alright, but I just want to get to, before I get into that story, I just want to get to what exactly I mean. Now, there was a time where I was like maybe 1 or 2, and a friend and I don't even remember this, but apparently we painted each other when we were naked, but we were like 1 or 2 years old. It's not even a memory I have. So whatever, if that's a thing I did, whatever. That is not what I'm talking about when I say at 7, this happened. No, this was oral sex and hand sex at 7 years old. Now, I don't know, and I never really thought about it before, if an adult did that to my friend, who then did it to me, and apparently was doing it with other, like he told me he did it with other people in the neighborhood and all. So it's not something I particularly did with very often, but it went both ways, and I guess you're experimenting with it all. I don't know. I was super young, and it was very inappropriate, and I never really thought about why my friend ever did that to me. What made him, get into that, which I guess is a thing unto itself. But all I know is that it happened, and that shaped my life, because I remember, this probably is gonna sound weird probably to most females. I don't know about males, but I remember very vividly being attracted sexually to my first grade teacher when I was in first grade. I remember fantasizing about my teacher when I was in first grade, so 7 years old. So how's that shape me? Well, then at 15 years old, I'm having, threesomes, me and, 2 other, 15-year-old girls. And, that's how things were, and where I lived at. All the teenagers, everyone was very sexually active. From 14 years old, definitely everyone was already having sex. But you could go down to, like I said, happened when I was 7, that I'm sure was going on. I know it was going on, at least with him, with a few other people, so I don't know how far it goes or it went. And this isn't easy for me to talk about, and I was not prepared to talk about this when I started this podcast. This was something that it's a memory you have, but you bury it because you're so ashamed of it and all the implications that it means and it has, and you run from it and you try hiding it, and I just have to be true to myself, and I have to ring true to everything. There was so much different sexual escapades going on. I had so many different sexual partners. It was just, and it was never a male after, that those encounters at like 7 years old. But I was way too into girls at way too young of an age. Like me and my friends, we were all horn dogs. We were in like 6th grade talking about how girls look. And I remember my one friend made a comment about the one girl had a big butt, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, I don't know if that's supposed to be a good thing or a bad thing. Like, I'm not sure how to respond to that. And I wanted to respond in the cool way, so I was just like, oh yeah, like, I didn't know what he was talking about. I mean, I knew what he was talking about, but it's not something that mattered to me. And then all of a sudden, because he said that, I was like, oh, maybe that should matter to me. So, that's how little things like that influence you. And then you then incorporate that into your next thought process. You're like, oh, what's that girl's butt look like? Is it big? Am I supposed to like if it's big? Am I supposed to like if it's small? And then you're sitting there judging yourself on whether you're doing it right, and you have all this pride and ego, and you don't want to be made fun of for not knowing. But how do you know? You only know by talking to your friends about it and them telling you what they know. But then they'll judge you, and they'll call you a pussy, and you'll get called a faggot and all these different names. Not that it's not sometimes a fun time, messing around with each other and teasing each other and all that. But then you start operating out of a place of fear, of peer pressure, of fear of being judged, fear of being different than the group, fear of not fitting in, and you start operating from that place. Well, then you're now being influenced and controlled by possible thoughts that haven't even happened. We're making them true in our minds, so we're acting as if they are already true, even though they aren't. And even if they were to come true, what's so bad about getting made fun of once? We all, as kids, you get made fun of by your friends, and you make fun of your friends. But, sometimes we take it more harshly than other times. And we don't want to know less than our friends about certain topics. We want to be cool. We want to look older and mature. I remember always finding little magazines that would be blown in the wind, and it'd be like pornos, like not like a Playboy magazine, just like one magazine with like a bunch of pornos being sold on, like a DVD or a book or something. You see a bunch of these little photographs of like naked chicks, and it was just like, we always used to see them. I don't even know where they would come from, but it would always be blowing in the wind on the streets. We'd be at school and they just like, we'd say like, what? Why is this here? I've never, I didn't know of any adults doing anything to any children in my area when I was a child. I don't remember hearing anything of that. But it's not to say it didn't happen. But it's just to say that, we were all very sexually active, and I don't think our parents knew about it, for the most part anyway. I think most parents think their kids aren't having sex, or they just don't think about it. But I mean, everyone I knew was sexually active by 14. Everyone in the high school. I mean, there was nobody that didn't have sex. Most of the time by 8th grade. And of course, when you're a middle school age kid, and then you have pretty teachers, then it's like and you're sexualized already, so you're operating from a place that you don't want to look like less of a man to your male friends, which it may seem like a small thing now, but when you're that young and you don't know anything other than that, I mean, that means everything to you, because it's what you know. So, it's being judged by your pack on a very instinctual level. It's a big deal. And so you have that, and then you have, the sensations, the experience of having the sensation of orgasming and how good it feels. And you give someone that kind of power of feeling that way at such a young age, then it's like all bets are off. It's like everything's centered around that. I remember I used to masturbate so much as a young child. 7, 8, 9 years old, and it's like clear still. It's just, that's, this isn't easy to talk about. But it needs to be said, because I'm sure there are others out there that can relate to this story of darkness. And I want to keep this one short because of how uncomfortable it is for me to talk about. I know it's going to sound and feel very uncomfortable coming through your headphones or car or whatever you're listening to this on. But I felt it was important that this had its own episode, because it was probably my first moments of darkness. Not knowing at the time that it was, I guess. You don't really know anything at that age, at 7. So, that influenced me big time. You know, I had a daughter by the time I was 19 years old. You know, I had multiple dozens and dozens of menage a trois, you know, as a teenager. Like that's really ridiculous, but it happened. So now, you know, sex to me now isn't that important. I mean, it is a very important thing. It is a tool to experience love like no other tool. And it is very important that you treat it as a sacred tool. But it doesn't run me anymore. It doesn't own me. See, I took an oath of going celibate for 100 days as a New Year's resolution from 2019 to 2020, and my 100th day happened to be Good Friday, the Friday before Easter. So I lasted over 100 days. It was like 105 days or something I lasted. So that was a very freeing moment for me. I took back control, and it was probably like 77 days in or something, 76 days in, that my Kundalini had filled up completely and my brain was ignited. Because I was doing meditations during this, and I was doing this technique where you get yourself aroused to the point of orgasm. But instead of externally orgasming, you internally orgasm. So that energy, instead of sending it outwards, you send it inwards and up your Kundalini. And it builds and it builds and it builds. And it was by like day 76 or 77, excuse me, in my meditation. It's like, man, I filled it up. But then I went to 105 days. And, you know, there was a time when I was working out a lot, and you go to the gym, and it's like everywhere you look, there's beautiful women. And at a time, I couldn't, you know, you just look all around, and then you start, you know, everywhere you look, you're just seeing flesh. That's all you're looking for. You know, you're not even paying attention to anything else. You're just like, oh, a nice ass, or you know, big boobs. That's what that gets you when you're, you know, 27 years old. That's the type of thoughts that you have, because at 7 years old, you're having someone perform oral on you. So everything is shaped through a lens of sex because of how good sex feels. So it's very hard for me to say all this because it sounds very creepy, and it is very creepy. And it is how most men operate until they die, mostly. And you hear women say, "Oh, men are pigs," and I agree that it's disgusting, but It's a whole culture that's anchored around sexualizing everything for guys and having them have no responsibility in terms of, just having a child and running off, or a female can take a pregnancy, the pill, but the men don't have anything for them to take to stop them from producing children. And it's more generally accepted that men cheat or are going to cheat, and it's because of animal instincts and all that nonsense. I mean, it's not nonsense, but it's a psyop. It's made that way so that to divide men and women, firstly and foremost, and secondly to distract you from being godlike, because then you're after. Yeah, women can be this way too. You're after a partner because of looks and sex and how someone feels inside you, or whatever, however you want to word it for you. But it's lust. It's not love that it comes from. And not to say that it doesn't matter, because it does matter, how your sexual partner feels, and, that you're being taken care of, and all that. But it shouldn't be number one. Probably shouldn't be number two. There should be a few different things that come into consideration, but because this physical world, we're taught that what we see is reality. We want beauty because we know that everything reflects us in one way or another. At least subconsciously, we know that everything is a reflection of us. So we want a beautiful partner so that it's reflected to everybody else. Look how beautiful my partner is. Look at that. My partner chose me. Look how beautiful my partner is, and they chose me. And it's a sense of pride and ego. And it gives us a false sense of joy, because we're not happy for them. It's fine to be happy for someone that they're beautiful, and it's fine to have a beautiful partner. But to then turn it to make it about yourself is not fine. Saying like, making your decisions based on peer pressure. Like, you don't want to be judged. So, I kind of like this girl, but she is a little overweight, and maybe someone will judge me and make fun of me if I am dating her. So I'm not going to date her. It's fear again. Judging, peer pressure on sex. It's the same thing, just a different age and a different issue because of the different age. But we get so wrapped up in sex as we worship it. It is a very special an important thing, and it makes us God. We actually can create life when we have sex. When a man and a woman produce the right mix of sperm and eggs, however it works out, we create life, the spark of life. It is very important and very sacred, and it shouldn't just be used on just anyone. You shouldn't be just masturbating and wasting your orgasms on nothing. Because those thoughts that you're having about those partners that you're imagining you're having sex with, those become real things that surround you. You know, you're putting out all these different energies. So you're being influenced by these energies that surround you because you are, putting this energy outside of yourself rather than keeping it in your kundalini inside of yourself. You're now externalizing, so you have all these little thought bubbles surrounding you. And you have all of these different fantasies of all these different women or men all around you. All these different thought bubbles. And you got to pop all these bubbles. You got to let go of all those things in order to not let sex control you. When you're having thoughts of, when you're having sexual thoughts of someone you know, they can pick up on that energy. So your name has a certain physical vibration. It is the same vibration that you are vibrating at, whatever vibration that is. Everyone's always vibrating. Everything's always vibrating. It's quantum physics. Everything's always moving. It's just observing something makes it be in one place or another. It makes it stand still, as if it was a camera taking a picture of a video, but it's always a video. It's always moving. So, if someone is thinking of you, then that thought is vibrating at the same vibration that you are vibrating at. And you can telepathically pick up on that if you're clear enough. If you're a clear enough channel, you get rid of all the gunk and the sludge that holds us down. You can pick up on other people thinking your name or talking about you. And you don't even need to be telepathic for it to happen when someone is sexually thinking about you and putting sexual energy into you. Because sexual energy it's one of your chakras. It's your second chakra. Your sacral chakra. It's full of so much energy that you make these huge energetic bubbles that are vibrating at that person's level. And they can pick up on it. They can feel it. Or maybe they pick up on it when they have sex, and it's something, an energy that comes into them. I'm not sure how it works, but they could definitely feel it. I know that for sure. So you have to be very careful with the thoughts that you have. You don't want to influence somebody based off of a sexual desire. You have to tamp it down. It's very hard to tamp it down. I mean, it's probably the toughest thing that humanity's going to have to overcome is the way that we view sex and how we worship it and how we idolize sex and all the sexual. I mean, look at Cardi B, Nicki Minaj, all of entertainment. It's all sexualized, and they go after younger and younger children. And what's happening is those children start having sex at younger ages, start producing children at younger ages, and it's just society goes downhill from there. We have to stop sexualizing the children. We need the children to be children. We can't let our children dictate everything to us, even though we want to listen to them and we want to make sure that they are heard and that they are being properly taken care of and not just being indoctrinated into a system and being told what to do. We want to hear their opinions. Their opinions of their lives matter. But when it comes to a sexual nature, they don't know what they're talking about. They just don't. They have no clue. Okay. It is something that we have to stop pushing agendas on our children that we feel strongly about. We can't make our agendas important for our children. If they are important for our children, they will be important for them. 8-year-olds don't need sex changes. 10-year-olds don't need sex changes. We don't need to be doing anything with children and sex at all. You want to give them sexual education at the proper age. I don't know what that age is necessarily. I'm not saying that the age that they currently receive at is the wrong age. That's not what I'm suggesting. I don't know what the answer would be to stop it from occurring. I mean, it is where it is at this point right now, but if it stopped tomorrow, if we stopped having nudity on TV and I'm not even suggesting that we shouldn't have nudity at all, because we all have sex. We treat it like we're afraid of it, but we're okay with teasing it out in front of everybody instead. And that's like so wrong. We should be very conservatively dressed when we're out on the public side. We shouldn't be showing glimpses and flashes and trying to show off our body parts. That's not what we should be doing. But we also shouldn't be afraid to speak about sex and its implications in society, because it's the running from it and secretly enjoying it is what's is what has got us here, because we have to get back to a point that our children aren't sexualized and that sex doesn't mean anything to them. Like, it doesn't matter if they're a boy or a girl or whatever, that we shouldn't have stigmas on sex at all. Girls can do whatever they want. Boys can do whatever they want. They don't need to be called a boy or a girl if they don't want to be called a boy or a girl. But they don't need to take any medicines or have any surgeries that are going to affect them and their thinking. Now, if they're consumed by those thoughts, I would suggest that those thoughts aren't their thoughts. and that there's an energy in or around them that is influencing them to think about those things. And that energy can be, I don't know, what you guys have on at the house. There could be a lot of sexual tension build up from what's being watched in the house. There's a lot of porn being consumed in the house, and that could form a huge sexual energy bubble that could travel around your home and then could get into the mind of someone who lets it in because they don't understand that they just let this thing in. None of us understand it. I don't know how thoughts come to us, how energies enter our bodies, how entities can lodge themselves in our chakras, but I know they do it. I don't know how to do it, but I know that you can recognize something if it's not right. When something's not right, and you know when something's not right. So when you know when something's not right, that's when it's not coming from you or your child or whoever the situation may be. If you're getting an erection in the middle of 6th grade class because you're yawning, well, is that biology? I don't know. I wouldn't think so. Maybe. I don't know. It used to happen to me all the time. I would yawn and I'd have an erection, but I wouldn't be horny. I would get this feeling of being tired. It would come over me, and I'd yawn real big, and then I'd have an erection, and I wouldn't be able to stand up. I don't know. Is that normal? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. I'm okay with it not being normal, but it's what happened. Look, the bottom line for this episode is that sex influences us, and it starts at such an early age, and parents don't know. My mom, if she hears this, is going to be horrified to hear that her 7-year-old was doing this. But that's because those things aren't talked about. But it's not even something that you would think that you would need to talk about. But because behaviors in society are immoral, everything's sexualized, and that becomes normalized. So then you can get it just about anywhere. Like I said, the flyers would just fall into our hands. I don't even know how that's possible, that they would just always be these flyers of porn. I don't know where these things were coming from. They'd be on the streets, wherever we were playing at. We'd be playing football, boom, get one. On the street, we'd be playing football. At the school, boom, we would get one. I mean, it didn't matter where we were. So, anyway, that wasn't very easy for me to talk about, but I felt it very necessary, and I hope that this episode can help you if you're out there and you're struggling, and that's something that you were always afraid to open the door to. You can always email me just to chat too, if anybody wants to just chat. It doesn't need to be put out there, broadcast for the public. If you just want to have a private correspondence, that's fine. If you just want someone who's not going to judge you, if you just want to get some stuff off your chest. Because, hey, we're 5 episodes in, and I've pretty much told you my how horrible I was in my deepest, darkest secrets. And this is supposed to be an episode or a podcast about the goodness overcoming the darkness. So I put it all out on the line, all out in the open, get it all out so that we can start getting to the goodness overcoming the darkness. And you know, that should be a fun ride. So I guess that'll do it for episode 5. If anybody wants to share their story with me, or just correspond, or if you want to tell the story yourself, you can just shoot me an email at thegreatchakraawakening777@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook at Todd Armstrong. And right now, that's all I'm at. And I promise I'm going to be getting an intro here soon. And, things are going to start becoming better. But I hope you're enjoying all these episodes, even though the first couple have editing issues and all that. I'm just trying to push through and do better for you guys. I'm switching up podcast and host services. I'm trying to get the right equipment. I'm not very technically savvy. I don't know all of this stuff yet, so I'm trying to find it. Seems like I found something right now that's working pretty good. So hopefully we can just keep going better, getting better from here. Alright, and I want you all to have a great day, and say a prayer to God tonight. Alright, goodbye everybody.